Welcome back to another ShareWise webinar. Today, we're very, very lucky to have the Managing Director and CEO of Viking Metals, I should say, VKA on the ASX, Julian Woodcock. He's very, very excited to be here, and I want to thank you, Julian, for taking your time out of a busy schedule to sort of host the webinar and sort of get out there to your shareholders and anyone else out there potentially wanting to learn a little bit more about Viking. Few key topics that Julian wants to run through: the VKA Corporate Summary, the Viking Investment Case, the First Hit Gold Project, and also the Canegrass Project. But my name is Harry McCaskill. Welcome to another ShareWise webinar. I'm one of the senior advisors here. So, Julian, I'll let you take it away, but thanks for your time.
Thanks very much, Harry, for the introduction. I'll share my screen just to be able to get the presentation going with it.
Beautiful. I'll let you know. Yep, perfect. I'll let you take it away, and everyone there listening, don't forget to drop your questions in, because there'll be a bit of a Q&A, question and answer at the end. So if you've got any questions for Julian, put them in the comments or put them in the Q&A section, and I'll be sure to try and reach out to as many of them as possible. And enjoy the presentation, everyone.
Okay, everyone, thank you for taking time to come and sit in on this webinar. As I said, my name is Julian Woodcock. I'm the Managing Director of Viking Mines. We're a gold and critical mineral explorer. And I'll talk through our projects, the main one being the Canegrass Vanadium project in Western Australia, and the more important project at this stage, which is the First Hit Gold project, also in Western Australia. This presentation has been released on the ASX this morning. There's the usual disclaimers and competent person statements, which you can take time to read at your leisure. So just a quick corporate snapshot of the company. As mentioned, our ticker is VKA. Share price this morning around 0.8%. We've been trading between sort of 0.8 up to the 1.4 cent range. Currently, our market cap sits at close to 11 million, with nearly $5 million in cash at the end of the last quarter, giving us an EV of close to 6 million. In the image here on the right, it just shows the location of our project. So the First Hit Gold project is located near Kalgoorlie, prolific gold district in Western Australia. And we've got full control over 480 square kilometre land package at that gold project. And it's centred around the high-grade First Hit Gold mine, which was operating around the early 2000s, produced about 30,000 ounces at a high grade of 7.7 grams. And we've recently also calculated the remaining inferred mineral resource of around 19,000 ounces at a respectable 7 grams. Importantly, we're located very close to Ida and Zuleika Mining, ASX listed company, over 1.7 billion value. They're within 8 kilometres of our tenure. And importantly, they have a mill just 40 kilometres to the south of us. The Canegrass project I won't talk at length about today, but it's definitely worth mentioning. We've got an outcropping hard rock vanadium magnetite project, which contains a large amount of vanadium. We're 60 kilometres from the township of Mount Magnet, with good access and infrastructure, with sealed airstrip and bitumen road and gas pipeline within 22 k's. And it's only 420 kilometres to the port of Geraldton. That project has a lot of future upside, certainly as we see potentially movement within the vanadium price. So as I said, my focus is really on the First Hit Gold project today, especially given where we are within the gold sector and the current record highs that have been reached for the commodity. So I'm going to talk you through the exploration opportunities that we have there, which are extremely compelling, with some very exciting results that we've had lately. So this is just a map of the region. Lots and lots of historic and operating mines here, shown by all the symbols that you can see. Our tenement, I'll draw your attention to, is in the top left corner, in the gold colours here, which are coloured and encompass the 480 square kilometre land package that we have under our control. And the important takeaway from this is the Zuleika Shear, which is marked in red here, and it runs all the way from Coolgardie. Down at the bottom is a camp that's owned by Evolution Mining. I used to work there when I worked for Evolution Mining for a number of years, which is in excess of 4 million ounces. Moving further north, you've got the Bullant gold mine owned by Northern Goldfields, 0.8 million ounces. You come up around Davyhurst, which is operated, as I mentioned, by Ida, 1.2 million ounces in historical deposits and remaining resources, and the Riverina camp over 1.3 million ounces. So we're really on a very significant gold hosting structure, the Zuleika Shear, and that runs right into the tenure which we operate. The First Hit Gold mine I mentioned is a small tenement here in the centre on a granted mining lease. And as I've said, that's got a remaining 19,000 ounce JORC 2012 resource at 7 grams, which we're currently assessing. I'll go into a little bit more detail on another slide shortly. And we're one of the key things is we're currently underway with a drilling program. We completed our phase 1 program at the end of last year, beginning of this year, testing this 25 kilometers of strike of Zuleika Shear, which has seen no bedrock drilling for over 23 kilometers of that strike length. It's really quite amazing that there's such a substantial amount of ground that's seen no real drill testing. Our first drill line that we put across this area encountered a very significant result, albeit not an ore grade result, 27 meters at 0.4, but with peak assays up to nearly 3 grams a ton. This is the first traverse across an area, virgin ground, no prior drilling north or south of that, and straight away we encountered potential pathways confirming that there's gold in the belt. We've still got assays pending for about 4,600 meters of the drilling which we completed there, and we expect to be getting those out through the remainder of this month and early into next month, at which point we'll also be embarking on the phase 2 program. So just touching on first hit, here's a long section, so a view to the west, and what we can see here is the access, the decline in grey here coming down, taking us to about 200 meters below surface, about $15 million worth of infrastructure installed there. The beige areas, or the salmon pink areas here, these are the stopes that were extracted when this mine was operating. So this is where that 30,000 ounces was extracted from on the northern side, and then there's also areas within here. What we're interested in, when this mine was operated, the gold price was less than $325 an ounce. It's seen significant uplift since then, and we knew there was remnant mineralization that hadn't been extracted at the time. So we recently put out an announcement. We recalculated the remaining resource, and what we can see on this long section is the remaining resource and some high-grade blocks, greater than 5 grams a ton in the purple color here. And this is what is reporting as our remaining resource of 84,000 tons nearly at 7 grams for 19,000 ounces. It's located on a fully granted mining lease, and there's a lot of substantial hits remaining in the underground workings that we have in the database. So you can see some examples here, nearly 5 meters at 65 grams, 3 meters at 77, 78 grams, 4 meters at 26. So this really illustrates the grade and the intercepts that are remaining that haven't been extracted when this mine was last in operation. We also see a significant opportunity to extend this mine to depth. So while it be a very small, modest resource of 19,000 ounces at the current gold price, you can do the maths at $4,500 Australian gold and see the huge inherent value that we have with this resource. So we see opportunities to look at this resource and see the potential to extract that mineralization to the benefit of our shareholders and realizing some additional value to continue funding with our exploration activities. Importantly, if this work is completed and we can dewater and access this mineralization, extract it, it'll give us drilling platforms at depth to be able to test this mineralization and the extensions from it. This is just a photo of some core that we have from the project when it was in operation, and this just illustrates the style of mineralization we're targeting. So it's this narrow vein, it's about a 0.5 meter wide vein, extremely high grades, 120 grams a ton, with some solid grades as well in the wall rock mineralization, and lots of visible gold. So I put this slide in here because it's really important to understand the context of what we're exploring and what the deposit types are that we see in this region. They are these narrow veins, usually sub 1 meter, with extremely high grades, which we have to think of the context of when we're exploring in the larger area, which I'll talk to on the next slides. This really means that we're looking for very small discrete hits, but once we get those hits, we see the potential to be able to leverage off those and find the pathways to where the gold deposits form. Just to give a quick lay of the land and the existing infrastructure at surface that's in place. So we're looking to the south here, an overview shot of the site. Got the box cut and access to the underground, which I showed on a couple of slides previous. We've got the laydown area, fuel storage, area of our diamond drilling that we undertook in 2021. Our exploration camp that we operate from is 3 kilometers to the south. And in the distance here, you've got the Riverina open pit, which is a substantial mine that's currently in operation and will be in operation for many years to come. All the area to the left side of the image, which is east of the mine, this is the area within which we're exploring, where there's very little historical drilling. So to step back out into the bigger picture, it's quite a busy image on the right, but there's a lot to take away from this. You can see this north-south strip of tenements. This is what's within our control. This is a 25-kilometre strike length of the Zuleika Shear, which is represented by the yellow line on the right-hand side. We see in the magnetic image, which is the backdrop here, these areas where we go from thin single bands of white, which is the ultramafic rocks, which then group up into larger sections, which we call duplexes. And there's 3 of these through the belt that we have under our control: the southern, the central, and the northern duplex. First hit mine is located here. And for context of scale, I've put the Riverina long section. The Riverina mine is actually located within this blue circle where it says the Riverina Mulline Camp, but I've put an illustration at the northern end just to show this is where the substantial deposit of Riverina, what size it looks like, and the scale of this belt. The blue dots here is historical RAB or air core drilling. So this is drilling that doesn't effectively test bedrock, but it just gets through the cover sequence and the weathered rock at the top looking for gold anomalies. And you can see there was only 3 lines undertaken through here, no bedrock testing by RC or diamond drilling. A little bit of RC drilling at the southern end of the tenement, but none through the rest of it. We undertook our first drill program commencing in November last year. That was at the northern duplex target. We drilled these 4 traverses, which are represented by these green lines across here. And the strategy around that was to drill heel to toe drill holes, which means the hole ends where the next hole begins. And that gives us full coverage looking for these narrow veins. We've currently got results for the first traverse we completed, which is this one highlighted here. And I'm very pleased to say that within that first traverse, we encountered in hole 83, 27 meters at 0.4, which included 3 intercepts greater than a gram, meter at 2.9, meter at 1.1, meter at 1.5. If you look at this Riverina long section, if you go into their December quarterly report, I think you'll be able to see a long section there. And that illustrates the tenor of these kind of grades are those that have been encountered within very short distances of the deposits. You can fit that deposit in between our drill sections. The reason we went for these broad drill sections, because we just wanted to get a general understanding of what the geology was like, with the opportunity to encounter mineralization, which we have done, we've been successful with. And now we're looking, once we get the results from the remaining 3 sections, establishing if there's other positions that warrant follow-up. And then we'll be looking to move north and south from those to focus in on where the potential deposits could be. So as I said at the start of the presentation, there's about 4,600 meters of RC drilling assays pending, which will be the results from the remaining 3 traverses. And once we receive those, we'll be getting them reported to market. We're also undertaking the phase 2 program. So we raised some money at the end of last year, which will fund additional activity. So we'll be moving to the central duplex target, and that work's going to commence in March. And we'll be looking at a similar approach, testing across key areas. There's strong geochemical anomalies that are highlighting the areas for us to focus in on. Again, if any people who are listening through this talk at the moment would like more information, if you go to our website, there's a great wealth of information on the announcements that we put out that detail the exploration targets and the reasons for which we're exploring on those. I'm just going to zoom into the northern and central duplex, just to give a bit more context for some of the reasons of the geochem that we're following in on. So you can see at the northern duplex target, the reason for focusing on here was the structural thickening of the geology, which means there's faults running through there, which we see the opportunity to host mineralization. And they were supported by these geochem anomalies from an auger program, which we completed. The northern anomaly, almost 2 kilometers long, greater than 10 ppb. At the southern part of the duplex, another 2 kilometer long anomaly, actually with a result as much as 0.5 gram per ton in the auger drilling here. Again, just stressing, we're waiting for assays from these 2 areas. The northern part of this is where we got that 27 meters, which you can see here. And next, we'll be moving to the central duplex target. Now, this target looks extremely compelling. It's got a much more consistent and longer strike anomaly, over 6 kilometers long, greater than 10 ppb, abutting right up to the shear, the Zuleika Shear here, with all the favorable indicators and hallmarks, good host rocks, structural complexity. We're seeing the breaks in the magnetics. So these are the areas that we want to be getting tested within this next round of drilling, which is going to be scheduled to commence. I just draw your attention back to that slide a few slides ago, which showed the bit of core, the 1 meter or so running at very high grade. We're really looking for the needles in the haystack, and I believe that we're actually getting close to finding those deposit positions with the results that we've received already. And again, we'll have the results out, and it's certainly worth keeping an eye on VKA and looking for these results that come out, because we could be on the cusp of a significant discovery. we see potential in this area to define comfortably north of 200,000 ounces. Current gold prices would be a significant re-rate and valuation for Viking in the event that we're successful with that objective. So I've run through that fairly quickly. I'm mindful that it's that we have a limited amount of time to get through the talk here, the webinar, and keep people engaged. But just to wrap things up, we've got the first hit gold project. We completed an underground mining evaluation. We're testing high priority targets along the Zuleika Shear. We've got a lot of assays remaining from the phase 1 drilling. Phase 2 drilling will be commencing shortly. Canegrass, I haven't talked at length, but it's a vanadium project, which is a very significant commodity required in all steel. We've got a very large deposit. There's a huge amount of information on our website, and there's opportunity for any investors to be leveraged and exposed to that upside as well. We've got a very strong cash balance, fully funded for our activity. We raised a few $1 million, or $2.3 million in the December quarter. Finished the December quarter with 4.7 million. We're obviously spending some of that in the drilling programs, but we're still in a very healthy cash position. So we're currently fully funded for our activities that we've got planned and everything that I've talked through in this presentation.
And just quickly there, Julian, on the cash situation, how many quarters is that expected to last?
Oh, look, of course, that depends upon the amount of fieldwork and activity that we undertake. We're envisaging the next phase drill program, probably a similar length as the previous drill program. That would be anywhere between sort of $750,000 worth of expenditure. But if we factor that in, I would say we're really funded that we could comfortably undertake another probably 10,000 plus meters of drilling, probably a little more than that as well as other activities. So in terms of how many quarters, it depends on the amount of field activity, but we can comfortably do at least 10,000 meters of drilling plus our ongoing cost,
Yes.
and still be in a decent cash position after that. So,
Nice.
If we get good results and we're warranting follow-up, obviously we'll start to burn through that a bit quicker. But
Yeah,
the results themselves will generate value for the shareholders.
yeah, exactly right.
I'll stop sharing the screen there, Harry. And then
Beautiful. We'll go into a little bit more of a Q&A. I've got a few questions on my end, and anyone who else has any questions as well, just make sure you drop them in the comments or in the Q&A that we can run through. But my first one, and you mentioned right at the end there, the Canegrass project. With the main current focus being on the first hit gold project, what is Viking's strategy for the Canegrass project and any potential projects moving forward?
Look, the Canegrass project, we picked that up a couple of years ago, and it performed exceptionally well with the drilling and the technical work that we undertook. We doubled the resource. We did a pit optimization study at the prevailing price and cost at the time, and that, while it's an inferred resource, so we can't call it a scoping study. For all intents and purposes, it certainly fits the bill other than the resource category. That established a large resource that saw many potential years of operation in a conceptual nature. Unfortunately, the vanadium price was working against us through that time. It fell from $10 a pound to about $5 a pound, so it halved.
Yeah.
At the moment, we've been undertaking metallurgical test work, other activities on site that are required to be able to build up the information we need to carry the project through to the next stage of the scoping study. So we'll keep working on that at a more moderate pace at this stage. Keeps the project in good condition. And as I say, if we expect to see the vanadium price move, we're positioned to be able to move rapidly. I should stress with vanadium that steel is the main consumer of vanadium as a commodity. 90% of it goes into the world steel production, so it's heavily linked to what's happening in the steel sector. But we're also seeing the rise of the vanadium redox flow battery, which is essentially a much better suited battery for long duration energy storage than lithium. And these are starting to be installed globally. So one minor advantage to the low vanadium price is it's reducing the cost of installations of the vanadium batteries, which is seeing them penetrate the market.
Right. And with your outlook on palladium, are you seeing a shift in the supply and demand? Are you seeing demand drop off, increase? Where do you see that?
Look, it's quite an opaque market, so it's not traded on spot. You really get some pricing on it based on, I guess, contracts that are made available that's allowed to get an indication of pricing. I think there was a drop off in the pricing, certainly. I'm not sure so much about the consumption. We have seen, with China being the biggest consumer as well as producer, and the issues with the Chinese construction sector effectively reducing the demand in part. But generally, over time, you're seeing a net annual increase in demand. And there's forecasts by the 2030s to see vanadium demand actually increase double from the current levels. And that's attributed significantly to the battery sector, which is growing. So we expect, on a longer term thematic, expect to see that the price will, well, the demand will increase quite substantially. At this stage, we're seeing sort of slow year-on-year, sort of 3-4% growth rates in the general demand, which reflects the global increase in production steel.
Yeah, very, very cyclical market. So it'll be interesting to see how that shifts. I guess from your perspective, and obviously shareholders listening and potential shareholders, they want to know, I guess, from a managing director's side of things, what are you most excited for in 2025, and what are your short and medium term goals for the business to try and get a little bit of a reaction in that share price, so shareholders start to see a little bit about, I guess, benefits and a little bit of capital growth?
Look, by far the results that we're seeing out at first hit in that 25-kilometer strike on Zuleika Shear. I'm a geologist by qualification. I've been operating as a geologist for more than 20 years. I've spent the last 14 years working in the eastern goldfields of Western Australia, worked with large companies, Goldfields, Evolution Mining, Gold Road. And to be putting a first drill traverse in an area with 25 kilometers of no drilling, like absolutely no bedrock drilling, and getting hits like we got from our first drill profile is extremely encouraging. Like it's greenfield exploration, and we've got not quite an ore grade intersection, but with individual meters up at ore grade within it. And yeah, to have nothing around that, it just confirms that we've seen gold pathways running through the area that we're exploring. So we've not quite got onto the deposit on nail on the head, but the results that we've got could be within 50, 100, 500 meters of a substantial deposit. The drill spacing we've got there at the moment, that's just an exceptionally good outcome for the first profile. And we're still waiting on the assays for the other three, so I'm very excited and waiting to see what we're going to get in those.
Because you've just completed phase 1 drilling. What are the next steps?
Yeah, so phase 1, we've got to get the assays through from the remaining traverses. That will give us an indication of where the key areas to focus on. So these traverses are very wide. They're sort of plus 1 kilometer in width, east to west. As those assays are coming through, as I said, we'll be getting out and commencing with phase 2, which is testing on another target to the south. But as those results come in, when we plan phase 2 drilling that will be going at the central duplex target, we'll look at planning holes that warrant follow-up around the results that we get within the northern duplex. We're also looking at potentially doing an infill soils program. Now that we know exactly where we're looking, we've done the geochemistry, we know what sort of signature that we're getting from the gold mineralization. We're looking at closing up the soils to be able to give us the opportunity to hone in within a specific area with a more targeted drilling with the next time we get the drill rig out. So we'll see drilling within March, which will see results in April to May, and that will then allow us to follow up. And we've also got other targets in the area that we're looking to commence with. So we've got the follow-up drilling with and the early stage drilling at the Zuleika Shear position. And we've also got looking at doing a evaluation for what potentially could be extracted from first hit, the 20,000 ounces or 19,000 ounces that we have there. So a couple of different approaches to carry forwards on the gold. And I really see with the gold price where it's at, this is where we've got the most significant opportunity for our investors and shareholders.
Beautiful. I think that's what they want to hear. They want to hear those sort of things moving forward. We've had a question come through. Now it says one of the tenements controlled over the Zuleika Shear is under an option agreement with another explorer. Can you shed any light on that and the structure around that arrangement?
Yeah, look, for the full detail, we announced that option way back in, I think it was 2021. So there's a full detail been disclosed on the ASX, and that can be found and read through. But in short, it's a It's a 5-year option. We're currently commencing into the, I think it'll be the 3rd year. So we've still got plenty of time to run on the option. And there's just a payment to be made. I think it's $325,000 to be able to acquire the tenement or the rights, the gold rights to that block. It's actually all commodities. It's not just gold within that part of that tenement. And I think a 1% NSR.
Beautiful. There you go. Well, hopefully that's answered the question. Now, before we wrap things up, Julian, again, thanks for your time. But a question I always like to ask managing directors and CEOs is if there was one reason why someone should become a shareholder, or, you know, if they're thinking about why, you know, Viking could potentially be a good investment, what would you say it is and why?
I think for those that have been watching the gold space in the last 2 weeks, we've seen 3 junior companies that have catapulted off one result very recently. So you've got Oz Aurum, Kalgoorlie Gold, and Caprice. Those 3 companies saw their share price re-rate 2-3 times increase, and that was all off the back of one result. We're definitely in that position, and we've got arguably a lot more perspective in terms of it's not been tested ground, virgin discovery. We're well funded to conduct our activities, so it's not like we're just putting individual holes here and there. We're putting aggressive programs in that are advancing forwards. So yeah, any investor that comes in now will be exposed to the opportunities, and the drilling that we've done thus far has confirmed that there is gold in this area that's not seen any bedrock drilling before. So it's not like we're just running off a wing and a prayer here. We've got, from the first traverse, we've got results. So if you come in now, potentially you'll be exposed to that 2, 3, 4-fold uplift.
That's exciting stuff. Obviously, 25 kilometers, it's a long way. So I'm sure, you know, there's a lot of potential there. And obviously everyone listening, you know, if you're not already a shareholder, there's a lot to think about moving forward. But Julian, again, thanks for your time. This is recorded, so if anyone missed out on a little bit or wants to rewatch it, it will be on our YouTube channel. I'm sure Julian will put it on his socials as well, LinkedIn or whatever. But any final words, Julian, before I let you go?
Look, I think just anyone that's listening and watching, take the time to open up some of the recent announcements, the exploration targets. Can't stress enough the scale. You just mentioned it again. These deposits typically only have a couple 100-meter strike length. And I'll just say this: the Raleigh deposit down at Kandana, which is about 150k south of us, it only had a 200-meter strike length, a half a meter wide vein, but it was running 50 grams a ton, and it defined 1 million ounces in the top 600 meters. We have the space to fit those deposits in, and we're on the same structure, same host geology. They're the opportunities that we're looking for, and it could escalate very rapidly.
Exciting times. Well, I'll be looking forward to watching the journey. I'll be watching the share price and any announcements coming out, Julian. So again, enjoy the afternoon, everyone. And this has been another ShareWise webinar, and take it easy.
Thanks, Harry.